Not yet. There it is. Woo! Texas for Bobby! Hi, everybody. My daughter Jasmine and I are part of the team here in Texas, our home state, that helped gather the more than 100,000 signatures needed to get Bobby on the ballot. Woo! And we have done it! One thing I want to stress about the plan this summer in Texas, we are going to organize the state for Bobby, and we are going to recruit a lot of people in the process. The petitioning got a lot of people excited in support for Bobby, and we got thousands of people that are supporting him right now. Thank you all for being here. We intend to bring youthful energy to the polls in November and make Bobby the next president of the United States. Y para todos que quieren un mejor país para sus familias, and for everybody that wants a better country for your families, Viva Kennedy, Vamos Kennedy. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Pussycat doll and vaccine injured advocate, Jessica Sutta.
Make some noise, Austin! Woo! How y'all feeling out there? You excited to see Bobby? Me too. Well, for those of you who don't know me, and there's a lot of you that don't know me, my name is Jessica Sutta. I'm a former Pussycat doll. Thank you. We still got it. Unfortunately, I was vaccine injured by the Moderna gene therapy shot, and my life and health was ripped from me, unfortunately. Safe and effective turned into lupus. So I have lupus now. I'm not going to give up, but I'm also not going to back down on speaking out for the vaccine injured. Do we have any vaccine injured in here tonight? I'm so sorry that this is happening to you, but I'm telling you, Hollywood has turned very weird. I guess it's always been this weird. I had no idea. But it is despicable what it's done to our country, pushing these horrible vaccines onto the public that are just killing people, changing people's lives. But anyway, I'm so grateful for Bobby Kennedy, and I know he's going to be the next president of the United States. What do you think? Let me hear you. Bobby Shanahan, Bobby Shanahan, Bobby Shanahan. All right, we're just getting a little warm. I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary, Who is Bobby Kennedy? Who is Bobby? Yes. And if you haven't seen it, you have to share it with all your friends because it shows what an incredible man he is, what a warrior he is in this freedom fight to save our country. And I have every confidence inside my soul to know that he can do it. And if you ask me, who is Bobby? He's the next president of the United States. Let's go, Bobby! Thank you, guys.
Please welcome co-founder of Kiss the Ground organization and agriculture advocate, Rylan Engelhart.
Yes. Can I get a little love? Can I get a little energy here? So, my name is Rylan Engelhart, and it feels historic to be here. Does it feel like a historic moment for you? So I just want to say that I kind of feel like Forrest Gump, meaning I'm not quite sure how I got up here to give this talk. And there's a line from a Rumi quote, which says, "Start some big, foolish project like Noah." This is a big, foolish project. Can I get an amen? So I just wanted to say, For the last 20 years, I've been spending my life championing ideas, movements, and missions when they were perceived as crazy. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of that. So in my 20s, I had the opportunity to grow a family business that was a small restaurant in San Francisco that was a transformational gaming parlor called Cafe Gratitude. For those, thank you. And we brought that, so this is 2004. There was no almond milk in grocery stores. True story. And we were able to, and actually I actually remember telling my brother, I said, Carrie, we're gonna go to Los Angeles and we're gonna change the world with raw food, gratitude, community, and sacred commerce. Like I was so, and he looked at me with his cynical eyes and he said, you're crazy, that's never gonna happen. 7 restaurants later, and millions of meals served, we opened 7 restaurants in Southern California. And now we can get almond milk in every Starbucks around the world. So I say that to say, seeing things before they become seen in the collective. The next thing, so my work in the restaurants brought me to New Zealand. I was brought there to be a sustainability expert on our restaurants, vegan, plant-based restaurants in Los Angeles, and I went with a little bit of a hue of arrogance, of like, I know. And I found myself sitting in a panel discussion of a panel called Can Human Beings Sustain Life on Planet Earth? And 5 out of the 6 experts said no. And the 6th was a guy by the name of Ram Seth, who said, if we understood our role and relationship to nature and the importance of soil, we could actually regenerate the earth. And at that moment, I had never even conceived of how life could get better in 7 generations. And in that moment, I saw these dots being connected, the way that soil, plants, trees, grasses, and the whole carbon cycle works. And I saw that we actually could heal and regenerate our planet. And I got back to Los Angeles, and I'm serving my plant-based food in the restaurants, and it became my ministry. Everywhere I went, I was telling people about healthy soil and regenerative agriculture. And people had no idea. So I thought, all right, well, this is the idea whose time has come, that regeneration is possible. And so I stepped away from the comfort and the success of the restaurants and started a nonprofit in my garage called Kiss the Ground. Who's seen the film Kiss the Ground? At this time, no one knew what regenerative agriculture was. Now, who knows what regenerative agriculture is? And just want to give a shout out to Nicole Shanahan, the VP for Bobby in this campaign. She has been a visionary in understanding regenerative agriculture is one of the most amazing solutions, and actually showed up and was an advocate, supporter, and executive producer on both the Kiss the Ground film and the Common Ground film that's coming out in theaters, has been out in theaters over the last year, but is coming out in September. So, I didn't say this in the beginning, but I'm one of the co-founders of Kiss the Ground, but I'm actually here not as Kiss the Ground. I'm here as an individual. And about a year ago, I was sitting on the toilet and I watched Bobby Kennedy's first campaign video. And I was weeping in tears, so moved by the truth and the authenticity of his being. Yes, can we get a little... I started to think, oh my God, if that man can be the President of the United States of America, wow. Like, it just... So I'm sitting on the toilet, moved to tears. I send everybody in my list that video, and then I take a picture of myself, tears weeping down my face, and I put it up on social media, and I say, a psychic once told me that my job in life is to point at things. And I'm pointing at Bobby Kennedy for President of the United States of America. And as we know, when we put our neck out there and we courageously express our values and who we are, we become a bigger target. That next day, I got 2 phone calls. You can't put that information, you can't support Bobby Kennedy because your relationship to a nonprofit and you represent the nonprofit. I understand the legalities of it. So my tail kind of went between my legs. I kind of stuffed it, and I went on for a year sort of in silence. And then 4 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to be at another fundraiser in Austin. And that fundraiser ended with a sweat lodge where 40 of the supporters were there in a sweat lodge with Bobby. And it was heat on the rocks and sweat and prayers and song. Can I just get a little amen that the future president of the United States of America was sitting in a sweat lodge praying that we may be better human beings, we may be better stewards of this earth, that we may be better to each other, that we may love each other, that we may be humble and learn publicly. And so I'm there, and there's all this stuff happening in there, and I'm still dealing with my insecurity. I'm like, I'm not sure I have something to say in here. And I have this whisper on my heart that says, Ryland, you wouldn't be who you are today if you didn't have people champion your life. And it's your job to champion Bobby Kennedy's life. So that came through. I shared that prayer in the sweat, and then on my drive home, I committed. All right, I started this nonprofit 10 years ago. It's literally the thing I've created as an adult. It's been the most important thing to me in my life besides my children and my wife. And I'm going to give that up because this is a more important mission in this now moment. So I just want to say, so I let go of that. I let go of the security of that so that I could play full out to champion this campaign's success. Bring them on. All right, I got 55 seconds. Thank you. So I just want to just walk with me. So how lucky are we that we have a presidential candidate who for the last 30 years has been protecting nature and loving Mother Earth? How lucky are we that we have a president who can do 20 pull-ups and meditates and is a falconer? How lucky are we to have a president that is not a sock puppet for the corporate apparatus? This is historic, you guys, and it's not going to happen without you. We need to give something up. Bobby and Nicole are sacrificing. They are taking the sacred office, sacred office. They're taking this on, and they're giving something up. They don't need to do this. What are we going to give up to make sure this happens? we're going to need to give our time, money, resources, and we're going to most of all need to stand in our courage and speak our truth with love in our hearts. Thank you. The final thing I'll say is, I open with a Rumi quote, and I'm going to close with a Rumi quote. There's a field out beyond right doing and wrongdoing. And in fact, there is a president out beyond Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I will meet you there.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for Ryan Engelhart. Now please welcome to the stage comedian and freedom fighter, J.P. Sears.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, please get up one more time for Ryan Engelhart. What? Does he have some passion? Kind of makes you want to go storm the Capitol, doesn't it? Joe, want to storm the Capitol? Bring your spears. Come on, I want to now. Oh, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Y'all excited to see Bobby Kennedy? Y'all a little disappointed you have to watch me? Yes. All right, I love it. We're going to be going around to check your proof of vaccination cards before we give Bobby I am curious. I always love to get a sense of the room. Make a little noise and show of hands. Who has seen some of my work before? Oh, wow. That's kind of, I'm honored. Wow. I'm the guy you normally watch while you're sitting on the toilet with your pants around your ankles. And for tonight, we're going to keep our pants on, if that's okay with you, Austin. We like to keep it weird. You already have yours off, sir. That's great. Very progressive of you. I'll have you read a story to my kindergarten class. Now, I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of Bobby, I've gotten to know him over the past 4 years. I look at the world, and what concerns me the most is the world my son is going to live in. And I'm curious, how many of y'all have kids? I mean, to me, that's just the highest purpose in life. I look at my son. He's a divine, miraculous droplet from God. He just melts my heart. My little guy, he's getting big. He's 163 weeks old now. He's beautiful. You know, he's a little over 3. And I've learned, you know, being a father, having a toddler, it's just like having your best friend, someone who's incredibly happy all the time while also being super suicidal. He just wants to play and try to kill himself. It's like, oh, are those stairs? Well, face first, probably. No, I love it. I love it. To me, the cutest thing about my son being a toddler, just how clumsy he is. I'll give you an example. The other day, he's just standing next to me, and he fell over. Just thump. I was like, well, son, you could be the president one day. Well, he likes ice cream. He can barely talk, still poops himself. I think he's another 4 years. I think we're pretty good. Y'all are very sweet with that. There's some crowds I do that to, and I pick out people in the audience. They're super entertaining to watch. Your reaction just kind of like, I don't like what you said, JB. You're always doing that. That's a vaccine side effect kind of thing. And then, that is good. I love my little guy. In about 12 years, I'm going to throw his gender reveal party and have him tell us what he is. Doesn't talk much yet, so he hasn't told us. I don't know how else you find out. Yeah, y'all, it's old news at this point, but I find it a little corrupt. when the Biden administration declined to give Bobby Secret Service. I think it's corrupt, but I think it's a good thing. Like, dude, those Secret Service agents aren't used to someone who can move, do pull-ups. It's like, yeah, we just watch him. He's just right there. And we make sure he can't. He's good. He's just going to be right there. We're pretty good. They're going after Trump a little bit, aren't they? JP, the guy standing next to me, I don't know how J6 he is, so I'm just going to be here and not say anything. Dude, here's how I feel. I don't like political corruption. And I've even heard Bobby say he doesn't, he's not the biggest fan of Trump, but doesn't like how they're going after him. All these indictments, they officially arrested President Trump last year. That didn't sit well with me because I care about our country. I care about my son's future in our country. So I got stressed out. But then I realized I have to accept this. I live in a country where they arrested President Trump. That's the reality. And given the fact that they arrested him, I just wish they would have filmed it for an episode of Cops. Wouldn't that be good? He already lives in Florida where all episodes of Cops are filmed. You just imagine the film crew and all the officers sneaking up outside of Trump's trailer at Mar-a-Lago. You hear screaming and domestic violence inside. They finally kick the door down. There's Melania on the floor. She's crying. She's got a black eye. Then she starts attacking the cops. Here's white trash Trump standing there. No shirt on, jeans down to here. Then he takes off out the back door trying to get away, right? Sprinting across fairways, diving over bushes, hijacks a golf cart. Tucker Carlson's driving, and they take off like he's got OJ in the white Bronco. But they're drunk and on meth, so they crash into the clubhouse, roll the cart. Trump takes off on foot again. He's got a lot of energy. And he almost got away. But then you cut to the post-arrest interview with the cops. Yeah, this is what happened out there. Well, perpetrator almost got away, couldn't find him. But then eventually we heard a sound over in the swampy pond. It sounded like someone saying, this is the best hiding spot. It's a very strong hiding spot. No one's ever seen a hiding spot like this. They'll never find me here. Hillary should be in jail. And then we looked over there and found the criminal. Got him. So not too long ago, President Trump, I don't agree with everyone about anything or something like that. I don't agree with everyone about everything. Is that what I should say? But he said something that didn't sit well with me. He was talking about RFK, said he has all this fake vaccine information. I was like, out of all people on earth that you accuse of saying that, he's still proud of Operation Warp Speed. Warp and DNA. He's very proud of it. That joke didn't go good. I've never said that before. Remind me never to say this stupid joke again, Jimmy. Jeez. What was it? Y'all remember the day RFK was announcing his VP pick? I think a lot of us were just like, well, it's not Aaron Rodgers? He's a good quarterback, so he makes sense for a VP pick. He's a little concussed. You want a little bit of that in a VP pick. When Bobby announced he was switching to independent a handful of months ago, some of y'all look like you had to dye your hair back to its natural color, which is fine. I love it. Man, who read Bobby's book, The Real Anthony Fauci? Well, all right, a very literate crowd. Y'all should be proud of yourselves. Dude, Fauci disappeared pretty quick after that book, didn't he? He's just like, the book's out. He's like, hey, guys, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to hide for the rest of my life. But I love watching how Bobby is so considerate. he thinks about things. Thousands of references in that book. And that's very good cause to be suspicious of someone like Anthony Fauci. Contrast the way I look at him, it's just like, dude, I don't trust the guy because he didn't throw that first pitch out very well. Did y'all see that a few summers ago? Can you trust a guy that throws that badly? I don't think that's right. Is Bill Gates here tonight? Wouldn't it be funny if Gates gave vaccine injections as inaccurately as Fauci throws? I just imagine he's going for your arm, just gets his own jugular. So, yeah, problem solved, Bill. But before I get out of here, I want to just say from my heart to yours, sometimes I get concerned. And I tend to be fairly optimistic most of the time. But sometimes I get stressed out. I look at the world, I think about my son, our children. We are authoring the landscape of the world that they will be living in. They're going to choose how they navigate it. But right now, we are authoring that landscape. And sometimes I look at what we're up against, and I get forgetful. And when I get forgetful, I get bummed out, afraid, and stressed. Because I look at the corruption, what's controlled, big tech, the censorship industrial complex, mainstream media, different pieces of the government, three-letter agencies. And I get forgetful thinking like, there is nothing that we have that can stand up against that kind of power. But then I remember two things. One, we have God on our side. And I truly do believe that. And we also have Bobby Kennedy. And what I've realized why I love Bobby so much and why he resonates with a shockingly growing number of people. Yes, he would be amazing to be in office. I think so much good would happen from that. But there's something even more magical happening. People are seeing what Bobby represents, and we're finding more of that in ourselves. A dedication to truth, a selflessness, a mentality that says, it is better to die on my feet than live on my knees. And, chances are most of us won't have to die on our feet, but we realize a willingness to die on our feet is also the only way to truly live. And we see Bobby model that, and it just inspires me. And it would be my hope that he wins this election. And if that doesn't happen or there's funny business, I would also say we've already won. He has started a movement. It's been like anything we've ever seen in our lifetime, a grassroots movement where people are awakening. And I would dare say what you love about Bobby Kennedy, let's have more of that from you. I think that's one of the things that this man is here to teach us. He is not just a political candidate. I do believe he's working on behalf of God. I think he's working on behalf of our future generations. Does that make a little bit of sense? So I'll leave you with this. From my delusional redheaded perspective, I look at beautiful, awake people, and I see two categories. Category number one, people who see a lot of the stuff that's going on. They don't buy into the smoke show, the narrative, and they're stressed out, living in a state of fear, angry a lot. It's not a very good quality of life. Then there's another category of awake people that know the same things, see the same things, but they have a good quality of life. They're happy a lot of times, and life feels good to them. The difference that I see between those two categories, you're going to fall in category number one as a awake person using your own brain, or category number two, the difference I see is people taking action or not. What I found, my own small little contribution. I honestly don't do anything brave. I say words. I don't even claim to know the truth. I just claim to say what I think. But when I see people take action, one, I see an incredible contribution to the betterment of the world, and that's beautiful. But I also see that creates incredible peace inside people, because when you take action, when you say what you think, and then you let your actions follow through on that, you have the peace of mind that change can in fact happen because you feel it on a visceral level. And that's why I say, if for some reason the election doesn't go the way we want, and I hope and pray it does, and I'll do what I can to make it go the way I want it, we want it. But if it doesn't, I say we've already won, because something we've learned from Bobby Kennedy is to take action, do more of what he is modeling for us. And I think we live in a time where the power is shifting back to we the people. I think real change in our country, it has to start at the cellular level, and we are the cells in the body of humanity. We're the cells in the body of America. So if you can leave here tonight, if this makes any sense to you, I would just challenge all of us, including myself, to up-level our contributions, the small, insignificant cell that we are, which is actually incredibly magnificent. If we can align with our own critical thinking, say what we think out loud, and then let our actions stay in incredible alignment with what our heart, soul, mind, and words say, I would dare say we win. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. Go Team Kennedy. Good night.
Let's hear it one more time for J.P. Sears. Please welcome member of the Ghetto Boys and host of the Willie D Live podcast, Willie D.
But I like the corporation. Yesterday, until yesterday, I didn't know a whole lot about the Kennedy 24 campaign. Obviously, I know about the Kennedys. I know Bobby very well through his work. But on yesterday, a friend of mine, Angela King, brought Nicole by my podcast, and we sat down and we had a spirited discussion about life and the future of this country. And I'm gonna tell you something, fam, I'm really, really good at reading people. And I looked her dead in the eye and I could tell that woman was sincere. She wanted the best for this country. There's some people, unfortunately, there are people in this country that their job every day is to wake up and try to figure out how they can further divide us. Let me tell y'all something. If any of those people are lurking in this room, which I hope they're not, we ain't gonna make it alone. We can't do this by ourselves. Like, we in this, whether we like it or not, we all in this together. And we ain't gonna make it without each other. I can promise you that. In 2023, 43% of Americans identified as independents. This year, 2024, even more Americans are identifying as independents. That tells me that we got a real strong chance of seeing our Mr. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Nicole Shanahan in the White House. This is a real possibility, right? In fact, it's a real probability. Let me tell you why being an independent voter is so important. It's so important because it fosters critical thinking. It promotes diverse perspectives. And most importantly, it ensures that decisions are made, Are y'all understanding what I'm saying? I'm stressing this because it's important that we know that decisions are made based on your beliefs, not party loyalty. We got to get away from that. So check this out. At the count of 1, 2, 3, I want y'all to repeat after me. 2024, all right? I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and I want y'all to say 2024 Kennedy Shanahan. 1, 2, 3. When I say Kennedy, you say Shanahan. Kennedy! Kennedy! When I say Shanahan, you say Kennedy. Shanahan! Shanahan! That's what I'm talking about. No more talk.
It's a very big week for independent presidential candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. He'll be in Oakland tomorrow to announce his vice presidential running mate.
RFK Jr. is just about ready to make headlines with his running mate choice.
This could very well be a serious third-party independent run by Kennedy, but he's going to need a VP pick.
There is really a lane here for RFK Jr. to do what so many people said was impossible.
Absolutely, there is, and he's right that his favorability is higher than either of his rivals, and he's drawing support from a lot of different corners.
We want America to live up to her highest ideals. We want her to be an exemplary nation again, a global leader in freedom, opportunity, and responsible government. We want America to be a peacemaker, a moral authority. We want our children to grow up as I did, in a country for which they feel love and pride. I want a partner with strong ideas about how to reverse dire threats to democracy and to our freedoms. And I found all of those qualities in a woman who grew up right here in Oakland, the daughter of immigrants, who overcame every daunting obstacle and went on to achieve the highest levels of the American dream. So that is why I'm so proud to introduce to you my fellow lawyer, a brilliant scientist, technologist, a fierce warrior mom, the next Vice President of the United States, Nicole Shanahan.
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I come to you as a woman not quite 40. I come to you as someone who has experienced sickness and health and poverty and wealth. And finally, I come to you as a mother. This campaign is so much more than politics. This campaign is about what is sacred, health and our families and this beautiful land that deserves much greater attention and care than we've given it. As recently as a year ago, I really didn't think much of Bobby Kennedy because I didn't know much about him. But then a friend who's here today pulled me aside and she said, Nicole, please do me a favor. Just listen to an interview with Bobby Kennedy, just one. So I did. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope for our democracy again. I'm making this move as an independent now because I've been finding it harder and harder to find the leadership in the White House that represents the issues closest to my heart. In fact, the very failure of both parties to do their job to protect their founding values has contributed to the decline of this country in my lifetime. Maybe that's why I see so many Republicans disillusioned with their party as I become disillusioned with mine. If you are one of those disillusioned Republicans, I welcome you to join me, a disillusioned Democrat, in this movement to unify and heal America. We deserve a real election of optimism. And that's what Bobby Kennedy gives us a chance at.
Millions of Americans are not going to vote at all if they're not given another choice. They're simply withdrawing from American democracy. Well, Nicole and I are going to give those millions another choice.
It is time, as Bobby Kennedy says, to focus on our unifying values rather than our divisions. And so if anyone is listening who never considered an independent ticket, I want to extend the same invitation to you that my friend did to me last year. Please listen to Bobby Kennedy in his own words. Take a look at his vision for America. It is a vision that I share too.
Nicole and I are running to help heal the symptoms of an ailing America, to heal our divisions, to heal our economy, to heal our mental health and our spiritual and our physical health.
I will work with Bobby Kennedy to make America once again a country of peace, a country of compassion, a country that is prosperous and free. This won't happen overnight, but I have seen miracles that the human spirit can accomplish. I have seen its resilience, and most importantly, I have seen its capacity to heal. And what is possible for the human being is also possible for our nation.
They're trying to divide America, but Nicole and I will unite it. And that's our path to victory.
So please, join me and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the healing of America. We've got this. We're going to do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Nicole Shanahan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to you all. Thank you to the brave and innovative minds here today. Thank you to all of those who are healing this country and healing America's soil. I want to talk about soil. Soil isn't much of a political issue these days. When they survey the public and ask, what issue do you care about most? You can choose things like immigration, abortion, inflation, guns, the deficit, the wars. But there's never a checkbox for soil. Yeah, I love soil too. For me, soil is an important issue, but it is part of something much bigger. I'd like to talk about that bigger thing today. Healing the soil says we are going to heal this country from the ground up. Yes. The foundation of a nation's health is its soil. It is also the air and the water. It is the economic infrastructure that supports life itself. And it has to be treated and respected as a public good. Thus, a most basic responsibility of our government. Moms, you all get this. You know
that health comes first, and then we can do other things. For too long, our nation has neglected its foundation. We have spent trillions of dollars on foreign wars, while our domestic infrastructure has fallen into disrepair. We have propped up Wall Street, while Main Street businesses have shuttered their windows. We have funneled unimaginable wealth to billionaires. I know them all. And I can tell you, most of them don't care that millions of Americans have fallen into poverty while they have fallen into wealth we have never seen. It isn't just that our soils are depleted, our people are too. Americans whose finances are depleted and they are drowning in debt. Americans whose health is depleted and you're barely getting through the day without feeling pain in your body. Americans whose hope is depleted and they struggle with addiction, depression, and despair. But what I have seen through my life is that every one of those conditions can absolutely be healed. But healing starts when you get serious about it. Healing starts when you make it a priority. Healing starts when you stop deceiving yourself that everything is fine. Healing starts when you're willing to look at the root of the problem and get to work. Yep, that's what we're going to do. While our politicians have been more concerned with slandering each other's personal lives, they have ignored these warning signs. They have turned their gaze away from the foundations of national health. Instead, they delude themselves with vain ambitions and lose themselves to the temptations of power and money. I'm sick of it. It isn't just soil that is absent from the issues of checkboxes that have taken over political discourse. You won't see chronic disease there either, even though it affects at least half of Americans. You won't see decaying infrastructure on that list. You won't see corporate capture of federal agencies. You might see climate change, but you won't see them addressing the root causes of forever chemicals in our water supply and in our food. Where's that? You'll rarely see fentanyl mentioned, even though some of their kids are dying from it, or skyrocketing depression rates, or the child care affordability crisis. We have to talk about these things. We have to open our hearts to them. Well, Robert F. Kennedy and I are going to look where all of the other politicians have failed to go. Yep. And we're going to do something about it. Honestly, I think this incredible movement of people have already started to make a difference. Has anybody noticed some new talking points coming out from the Democrats and Republicans lately? I heard Trump recently talking about blockchain. And Biden saying that the EPA is finally taking PFAS in the drinking water seriously. Yeah? And you know what? I'm counting each and every one of these as a win. And I hope you will too. You know, the pressure we are putting on them to start working on this stuff seriously is already working for all of us. So let's keep going. Yeah. We care about what the political establishment has neglected. In fact, that is one of the big reasons why I've entered politics. Up until last year, I was a pretty heavy Democratic Party donor because I believed that if I could just get the ear of party leaders, They would implement common sense policies in agriculture, health, and technology. When I did get their ear, they would smile and nod, but somehow nothing ever seemed to really get done. And their efforts became laden with all kinds of distortions. In my more cynical moments, I wonder if they were just after my money. But I'm not a cynical person. So I supported them because I trusted that they were sincere in wanting to make positive change. And you know, I actually think many of them want to. They can't. They can't because they're beholden to party politics and the insider games of Washington, D.C. Yep. They can't actually do anything because they're entangled in these corporate interests. They're stuck in hammerlock in Congress and our federal agencies. Most of the politicians in the two-party system are trapped there. And as a result, we're all trapped there. Or we were trapped there until now. So, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is here, and he is taking charge for all of us. It's all about to change. 2 years ago, I really wanted change, and I looked outside the party. I started 2 years ago to look outside of the party for somebody who had the experience, the wisdom, and the wherewithal to lead this kind of transformation. I couldn't find anyone that was until I was introduced to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yeah. Since listening to those early interviews with him and now seeing him out here day after day in that selfie line, man, that man has got something special that gets him out there day after day pounding the pavement for this movement. He is in a class of his own. There really is no comparison. I've met hundreds of these politicians, hundreds. I've never met a candidate like this. This transcends politics. Yeah. Whew. You know, he's willing to look at the issues from the perspective of solving them with long-term cohesive strategies, and he understands the need for national healing on a foundational level. And you want to know why he knows how to do this? Because guess what? The last 40 years of his life, that is what he is doing with his life. And that means he's just going to keep on doing it. And he is. Each and every day he's out here, he's doing it. National healing isn't only about policies, it's about getting to work. And it's about getting it done. And it's about doing it without worrying about pissing off your corporate donors. This is the objective leadership we have all been craving. Ooh, words are weak. How nice would it be to put the trust that our leadership is putting the health of the nation first? How nice would it be to put resources from the war machine into the peace economy? Yes. We so desperately need a Department of Transportation that is competent at fixing roads, not led by a career politician. Come on. We need actual, objective, unconflicted people running our agencies, not career politicians or their corporate donors. We need to clean up our polluted water supplies, broken railways, and we can't do it when our agencies are corrupted. So, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s leadership is going to help us restore the integrity of our food supply because our USDA will be run by a real connected to the soil farmer. Yeah! I can't wait for that. We will restore the spirit of our educational system by allowing qualified teachers, not the government, to run the classrooms. Yes. And you know what? We are going to tackle the addiction and mental health crisis with guidance from doctors who put health above pharmaceutical bonuses. Because it's only going to be that kind of setup that's ever going to allow us to feel trust in government ever again. So national healing isn't just about policy. It's also about how we communicate with each other. It's about love and trust and respect. And a lot of people have been turned off by politics, not only because of failures of the government, but because of the way these political conversations are happening. It's the tone and how we are talking to each other in this country. You can barely call them conversations, in fact. It's more like a shouting match. And each side seems to agree that the people on the other side are just horrible. So, if we are going to heal as a nation, we have to stop seeing each other that way. We have to respect each other enough to actually listen. Otherwise, how will we restore any semblance of coherent conversation? How will we remember how lucky we are to be protected by the Constitution of the United States? We are so lucky. We will remember how lucky we are once we stop taking each other out, realizing that the essence of our relationships is what makes us capable of appreciating this beautiful country. So, you know, when you actually have a conversation with somebody on the other side, Republican, Democrat, you realize there's a lot more in common than you think. And even when you take on one of those famous wedge issues, you discover that people in this country, we're not monsters. And I'm talking about things like guns, like abortion, like immigration. Most of us are caring human beings, yet our political culture tries to convince us otherwise. It divides us into warring opinion tribes. And how are we going to heal when we talk to each other like that? How are we going to tackle serious problems like chronic health if we aren't speaking coherently to one another? And you know what? That is another reason why I have allied myself with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Because nothing I have ever heard him say is designed to make you hate his opponents. There's no meanness. There's no mockery. And this isn't just a campaign strategy. This is his nature. He always gives people the benefit of the doubt and listens carefully. And that is the quality of the leadership that our country needs the most right now. Our independent candidacy is not separate from left or right. It draws from both. And you know what? It reaches outside of the left and right, too. A lot of our most innovative solutions come from outside conventional politics. They are in the realm of what's been called alternative. Yeah, and yes, I know that sounds so radical, but should it? I have seen the power of these alternative ways of thinking in my own life. I have used alternative health practices to restore my health, my fertility, and have learned that many of these practices have been used for centuries. I have seen alternative agricultural practices regenerate ruined land, and I have seen amazing innovators in criminal justice reform restore ruined lives. I know that what is possible when you think with an alternative, creative mindset. I know what is possible when we step outside of frozen habits. I know what is possible when we become independent. So I'm really happy right now to welcome this wonderful man on stage. So let's welcome him now, folks. Please welcome our next president, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
This is a day of affirmation, a celebration of liberty. We stand here in the name of freedom. We are committed to peaceful and nonviolent change. We must recognize the full human equality of all of our people, not just to those of a particular religion, not just to those of a particular race, not just to the wealthy, but to all of the people. We must do it for the single and fundamental reason that it is the right thing to do.
A new twist this morning for the country's most famous political dynasty.
RFK Jr. plans
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
on October 9th in the state
That it's time to heal a divided nation and return the power to the people.
Robert Kennedy Jr.
We are told today that our nation is hopelessly divided. But I found something different as I travel this country. I have witnessed an upwelling of optimism that I've never seen before. Something is stirring in us that says it doesn't have to be this way. And so I've come here today to declare our independence from the tyranny of corruption, which robs us of affordable lives, our belief in the future, and our respect for each other. But to do that, I must first declare my own independence. Independence from the Democratic Party and from all other political parties. I haven't made this decision lightly. It's very painful for me to let go of the party of my uncles, my father, my grandfather, and both of my great-grandfathers. But my sacrifice is nothing compared to the risk our founding fathers took when they signed the Declaration of Independence 247 years ago. They knew that if their revolution failed, every last one of them would be hanged. They chose to place everything on the line. When John Adams put his pen down after adding his signature to the Declaration, he turned to those present and he said to them, sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish. From this day on, I am with my country. I'm going to make that same pledge to you today so that I can stand before you, as every leader should stand before you, free of partisan allegiance, free from the backroom deals, a servant only to my conscience, to my Creator, and to you. Every president enters office promising to unite the nation and to work with people from the other party across the aisle. None of them ever does it. They can't. They're already chosen aside. Well, I'm not going to have that problem. I'm going to build coalitions from both sides of the aisle. And except for the small minority of public officials who are actually corrupt, I'm going to tell you this secret. They too want liberation from the system that has captured them. And isn't that ultimately what we all want? Liberation from a system that robs us of our wealth, our health, our hope, our patriotism, our ideals, our freedoms, and ultimately our sense of ourselves as a good and capable people. Is healing our divided nation possible? Let's go take back our country. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I am a real American, fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American, fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Austin. I want to start by thanking some of the people who appeared here today. Jonathan Moody for his music, Jessica Sutta, J.P. Sears, who my brother, who was side by side the entire COVID pandemic, one of the few people who remained funny during the pandemic. Willie D, thanks for coming down from Houston. And Ryland Engelhardt, who's given his life to giving us better food. And then 3 Texas volunteers, Kim Lindbergh, Judy Tucker, and Casey Malish. And they were part of the team. They were those are the 3 champion signature gatherers. We had an historic day today in Texas. We handed in just under 250,000 signatures. That's more than any presidential candidacy in the history of Texas and in the history of our country. The Texas legislature said, change the rules to your year at the last session to double the number of signatures that needed to be collected because they thought nobody would ever be able to do it. The pundits, you heard them from the beginning of this campaign, were saying it would be impossible for us to get on the ballot. And we got on the ballot in Texas, and if you can get on in Texas, we can get on everywhere. Texas only gave us 45 days to collect 113,000 signatures. We got more than double that. And I was just upstairs talking to the team that I was just completing the signature, and they said, we're on our way to New York tonight. Oh, because New York is the next one for us. We have 10 days now to complete. We had 45 days. The 2 hardest states are New York and Texas. We already got more than we need in New York. The DNC has done everything in their power to stop us, and they'll continue to do that, but we are going to get on the ballot in every single state, and I want to thank all of you who are part of this. And I want to say a couple of words about Nicole. When we chose Nicole, it's always, we've seen throughout our history that presidential candidates who chose unknown candidates as their vice president have historically run into a lot of problems because those people who are inexperienced in national politics, oftentimes when they're exposed to it, they collapse. Any kind of issues they have are amplified, and they end up looking bad. And I have, watched Nicole since the day of our announcement, and what she has been through has been extraordinary. Because she didn't spend her lifetime thinking, I'm going to be vice president of the United States. I called her on the telephone and said, do you want to be vice president of the United States? And she said, let me think about it. And then we had dinner about 3 nights later, and she said, I'm going to do it. And, I'm worried about it, and other people are, because you don't know how people are going to hold up, and you're walking into a buzzsaw where you're vilified, you're marginalized, you're derided, you're defamed, all the things that I've been through, but I'm used to it. I've been going through this for most of my adult life. But to have that all land on you in a 2-week period or a 3-week or 4-week period, and to be able to withstand it, And to come up and give a speech like that, where every time every time I see her speak, I fall a little bit more in love with her. Because you don't see vice presidential candidates or presidential. Most of the presidential candidates we have today, they sound like they're doing a satire of Veep. And the stuff that they're talking about is inane, it's cliches, it's fantasies and shibboleths and simplifications and bumper sticker slogans. And that's not what you hear from Nicole. You hear a lecture about soils. There's no political scientist in the world that would tell you you gotta do a lecture on soils. They'll love it. Nobody would tell her to do that. Nobody would advise her. And yet she does it, and you know, we all love her because we see the authenticity, we see the integrity, we see the compassion for other people, for the creatures with whom we share this planet. And you don't hear that from our political leaders. You don't hear that we're all part of a giant family and that the microbes are part of it. The soil is part of it. The plants are part of it. And that's what we need if we're going to start healing this country. Two days ago, I did a podcast with a guy called John Kempf. And he's a podcaster himself, but he's a young Amish farmer. And he can't have the camera on him because the Amish don't believe they only can use technology for certain purposes. But I was able to see him through a camera, but he can't use it during the podcast, and I had to promise him I'd never show the film anywhere. He's an extraordinary guy. He's a very handsome, young, 35-year-old guy with his very bright eyes and a long chin beard down to about here. And I asked him about his life, and he told me, like all the Amish, or most of the Amish, he has an 8th grade education. The Amish leave school when they're after 8th grade. But he had this extraordinary encyclopedic knowledge of the soils, of the plants, of the agricultural systems, of agricultural immunology, which he's made himself a global expert. I spend a lot of my time, because of my career, talking with scientists, with PhD scientists, with MD physicians, with people who have a lot of letters behind their name. And I love listening to them talk because they have an expertise, they have a grasp of a particular area of knowledge where you understand that you're listening to these existential truths that they've devoted their lives to understanding. And that's how I felt. I felt like I was a kid listening to a professor at Harvard because he knew so much about it. And about 15 or 10 years ago, he was a pesticide dealer. His father is one of the biggest pesticide dealers and fertilizer dealers in Ohio, in the Amish country of Ohio. And a few years ago, they began having pest problems on their farm. And they found that the more pesticides they applied, and they were consulting with professors at the agricultural universities about how to kill this pest and the next pest and the next pest. The more pesticides they applied, the sicker their plants got. The more pests came. And it happened that they rented a piece of land that was exactly parallel to the piece that they'd been treating, but this piece had never been treated. And they grew melons on parallel tracks on both, and they said, we're going to try this year with no pesticides just to see what happens. And in the area that had been saturated for years with pesticides, the plants were overwhelmed with pests. But on the track that was untreated, that they grew melons on, not a single pest appeared. And he said it was like a knife line between the two rows of crops. And one was completely healthy, the other was decimated. And he said that prompted him and his father and his brother to go to a seminar, to a conference on pesticides, and I listened to a speaker talk about it. His father took the two boys out to lunch afterward, and they said, "We're done. We're never going to use them again." And they have now become, and he plunged himself into a study of plant immunology. He said he didn't even know that plants had immune systems, but they do. And he's now one of the world's experts on it. He has 4 million farmers who follow him. And he's developed a way of agriculture, of growing plants with extraordinary productivity without using any pesticides. And he says that they treat the pest with nutrients instead, because the nutrients will then bolster the immune system and the native immune response of that plant. And I told him about a study, a very important study that I read years ago. The name of the study, the scientist is called Guyer, G-U-Y-E-R, and it was published in 2000, right at the end of the 20th century. And it was CDC-funded study. It was done by CDC scientists, NIH scientists, and scientists from Johns Hopkins, and they were looking at the decline in infectious disease mortalities in our country between 1900 and 2000, when there was an 80% decline in mortalities. The diseases themselves did not disappear. People were still getting measles, pertussis, tetanus, cholera, all these different diseases, but they were no longer killing people. The infectious mortality of measles was 10,000 people a year in 1900. But by 1963, it was 400 a year, and almost all of the people who were infected were malnourished. They were mainly black kids from the Mississippi Delta. And what this study found is that all medical interventions, vaccines, antibiotics, and surgeries, had almost nothing to do. They found less than 3% impact on the decline in mortalities. The decline they attributed to the bolstering of immune systems, the constructions of roads that allowed oranges to be brought from the south during the wintertime so people could eat them, refrigerators that allowed good fresh food to be in people's kitchens, the sewage treatment plants, the water plants, so clean water, nutrition, sanitation, the things that give us good immune systems. And it was the same lesson. And we need to start bolstering our immune systems, bolstering the things that God gave us, the soils. And good food does not come from chemical agriculture. And good health does not come in a syringe. And we are a sick country today. When my uncle was president, 6% of American kids had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. And it's the biggest issue. It's $4.3 trillion, 5 times our defense budget. We're spending 2 or 3 times per capita more than Europeans spend. And yet we have the worst health outcomes in the world. The more we spend on medicine, the unhealthier we get. But what is it that is causing us not to see that? What is it that's causing us to constantly feed this beast that is making us more and more sick all the time? It's a corrupt political system. It's the subversion of our democracy. And don't you want a healthy country? We have 2 presidents who are running today, 2 ex-presidents. One is the current president. They both had 4 years in office. They couldn't be more different than each other. If you look at their personalities, their dispositions, how they relate to the world, the ideology that drives them, that they articulate all the time. They couldn't be more different. But the issues that they're actually disputing on are a very narrow Overton window. It's what Nicole was saying. It's guns, it's abortion, it's the border, it's trans rights. These issues that are all important, but none of them are existential. None of them are the issues that really matter to you, to me, to our children. The issues that really matter, they never talk about. Nicole said they're starting a little to talk about it because our campaign is forcing them to do it. We have a $34 trillion debt. The service on that debt is now costing us more than our defense budget. Within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar that we spend is going to go to servicing the debt. Within 10 years, 100% of every dollar we collect in taxes is going to service the debt. Have you ever heard of President Trump talking about how he's going to end the debt crisis? Have you ever heard of President Biden talking about it? Oh, they can't talk about it because they're the ones who ran up the debt. Half of that $34 trillion came from them. President Trump spent $8 trillion, ran up for $8 trillion during his term. It was more at that time than every president of the United States, from George Washington to George W. Bush, 283 years of history. President Trump came into office saying, I'm going to run it like a business. I'm a businessman. Trust me, we need a businessman to run it like a business. Exactly. And then he closed down all of our businesses. 3.3 million businesses. Who would do that? Who would do that? Do you want a president who's going to close down all of our businesses? Well, we have two presidents who've shown that they're willing to do that. And he ran up, he shifted $4 trillion from the American middle class to this new oligarchy of billionaires. And another issue, that this is an existential issue for our country. We cannot keep running on this debt. We need to figure out a way to invest in things that are actually going to grow our economy rather than more wars. President Trump and President Biden. President Trump did say that he was going to end the war machine. But then he brought John Bolton in to run NSA. Oh, he put a swamp creature in charge of draining the swamp. And then 2 weeks ago, he gave a big bear hug to Speaker Johnson and to President Biden, and they agreed to send $64 billion more over to Ukraine. Wouldn't you rather that $64 billion be spent here in the United States? Don't we need that country? Don't we need that money here in our country to improve our schools, to improve our healthcare system, to figure out ways to end this mental health epidemic that is destroying our children? Last year, we had the highest suicide rate in our history. We had the highest cancer rate in our history. We have the highest heart disease rate. It's not just chronic disease. It's not just the neurological disorders that are afflicting our kids. The autism that's gone 1 in 10,000 in my generation and 70-year-old men today, to 1 in every 22 boys in my kids' generation, 1 in every 34 kids. It's not just the obesity epidemic. It's not just the allergy, the food allergies. The autoimmune diseases like juvenile diabetes that are devastating this generation. It's all these other injuries that are making our kids and our people sicker and sicker and sicker. Have you ever heard President Trump talk about how he's going to end the chronic disease epidemic? No. Don't you want a president who's going to be thinking about those things? When I get into office, I am going to end the chronic disease epidemic. It's one of the reasons I asked Nicole to be my vice president, because she spent her lifetime thinking about it. She understands it. We need a government that is making this our priority in this country, to give us a generation now of healthy children. Don't you want that for our country? And don't we want to end? Don't we want to end the lying by our government? Don't you want a government that's going to tell you the truth? You know, when I was a kid, everybody trusted the government. People, it may seem hard to believe now, but Americans trusted. When my uncle was president, 85% of Americans said that they trusted their government. People actually were proud of the fact that they paid their taxes. They considered it a civic duty because they trusted their government to spend it well and to tell them the truth about it. That's almost unimaginable today. And, you know, the first time people understood that the government actually lies to us was in 5 months before my uncle's election. A U-2 spy plane, a CIA spy plane, was shot down over Russia. And it flew at 60,000 feet. It was invisible to the eye, invisible to radar. It was a top secret CIA program. Nobody in the world knew about this program. And so Alan Dulles, and the pilot was under orders to commit suicide. He had a cyanide shot that he was supposed to give himself if he ever got shot down. It couldn't be shot down because it was so secret. But there was a spy, a Russian spy at Langley, that told them how to do it. And they exploded it. And Alan Dulles, the head of the CIA, told Dwight Eisenhower, lie about it, deny it, because the Russians were saying we shot down a U.S. spy plane. The world was shocked. It was illegal for us to be flying over Russia. And Eisenhower went out there and he lied. And the next day, the Russians produced Gary Francis Powers. And the whole thing was exposed, and Americans for the first time said, oh my God, our government lies to us. And then when my uncle was killed in 1963, the investigation, the Warren Commission, came out and said it's a lone gunman. 60% of Americans thought the government was lying again. And in 1973, the Pentagon Papers released 26 volumes that showed 10 years the government had been hundreds of government officials have been systematically lying to us. And Americans suddenly said, oh my God, a majority of Americans, the American government, a democracy, lies to its people. And today, we all know every time we see a government official on TV, whether it's a president, a vice president, or anybody else, our assumption is, isn't it, that they're lying to us? And if that is not your assumption, then you're not paying attention. Oh. A lot of times, reporters will say to me, you know, you're telling Americans not to trust their government. If you get the presidency and no American trusts you, how are you going to govern? And I say to them, because I'm going to make the government trustworthy. The day that Nicole and I get into office, we're going to issue on day one an executive order saying that any government official who lies to the American public in conjunction with their official duties will immediately be fired. Don't you want a president who's going to not lie to you no matter what? And that is the first thing we need to do to start healing the divide. Because the reason we all hate each other is because none of us trust any of the institutions that are supposed to be telling us the truth. We all think they have an agenda. And it's either a Democratic agenda or a Republican agenda. We don't trust the enforcement agencies anymore. because they're lying to us and they're taking sides. We don't trust the press anymore. When I was a kid, the job of the press was to maintain a fierce skepticism toward government pronouncements and government authorities. My father said to me when I was a little boy, people in authority lie. And our job in a democracy is not to trust the experts. That's not a feature of democracy. Our job is to respect people in power who are leading us, but to always question what they say to us. That is the job of a That's the job. That is the job of a citizen of democracy. And I'm going to give you, Nicole and I are going to give you a government that will not, under any conditions, lie to the American people. If we... We're going to tell Americans things they don't want to hear. We're going to tell you whatever we're going to operate transparently because that's what we need in a democracy. We're going to put all of our budget on blockchain so every American can read it 24 hours a day. If somebody is paying $4,000 for a hammer or $6,000 for a toilet seat, you're going to be able to find that out right away. Because it's your money, isn't it? Your money? Yeah. Well, they forgot it was your money. They're treating it like it's their own money and that they can keep secrets from us. And that's not what happens in a democracy. We're going to restore the faith in government, not by telling people you need to have faith, but by earning that faith, by earning that trust, by telling people the truth from day one. And we're going to heal the divide. Not President Trump can't heal the divide, and President Biden cannot heal the divide. They both acknowledge the country is divided in a way that is more toxic, more dangerous than any time since the American Civil War. But they're not able to do anything about it because they feed that division. They're telling you to hate the other people. You can't do that and end the divide. We have to find common ground. And President Trump and President Biden are the products of that division, of that toxicity, of that hatred. And if we want to have more of the same, you should vote for President Biden or President Trump because you already know what you're going to get. You're going to get more of the same. They've already shown you what they're going to do in 4 years. If you want another 4 years of that, you should vote for them. If Nicole and I get into office, everything is going to change. Everything. When we get office. And don't you want everything to change? Is there anything that you want to keep the same? No. Oh, that's why we need to go out and get ballot signatures in all these other states, and then we'll get our country back. We'll get the country that you deserve, the country that is once again a moral authority around the world, that exemplifies democracy around the world, that is raising children that are healthy and showing the rest of the world. Now, a lot of people say, we can't overcome this stuff because we're already too far down the road. Do you believe that? No. That's why you're here today, because you don't believe that. And I'll tell you something. We have terrible problems in this country. We have an economic crisis, but we also have the greatest class of entrepreneurs of any country in the world. Politicians always say that kind of thing about their country. You know, we're the greatest. Nobody's seen anything like us. And in fact, if you talk to people in Europe or Latin America or Africa and Asia, they'll say, despite all of America's problems, we still have this entrepreneurial spirit and an entrepreneurial class like no other in the world, and people who really believe that they can achieve new things and that they're not locked into systems. We have that, and we're seeing it all over our country today. So we have the capacity to rebuild our economy. We have the sickest country in the world, the sickest. We have the highest disease burden of any chronic disease. During COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So I don't know why people are getting awards for this. We literally had the worst record of any nation in the world. And CDC said, well, it's not our fault. It's because Americans are so sick. Yeah. So we have the highest neurological disorders. The CDC said the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So they had obesity, they had asthma, they had give me another one, diabetes, right? And one other thing. So, and that's why they died. So nobody has chronic disease like us, and we are the sickest country in the world, but we also have the best physicians in the world. These new alternative medicine physicians and functional medicine physicians. And holistic medicine and naturopaths and all of these different who are doing things that nobody on earth is doing. We have the capacity. We have a terrible illness problem, but we also have a greater capacity to heal. And so all of these problems are solvable problems. But we need somebody, we need a leader who will be able to summon the best and the brightest of Americans and put us on a new direction, an entirely new direction. If we vote for Trump or Biden, we're going to get the same thing. If you vote for Shanahan and Kennedy, you're going to get something altogether different. You're going to get healing. We need to wind down the war machine. We need to bring that money home and reinvest it here. And we can't do that. We have the corporations against us. We have all of the institutions that they now control. The press, the regulatory agencies, Congress are all against us. But we have the people on our side. And we're going to go and we're going to take back our country. And I want to thank all of you. Thank you all for your commitment to our country, to this campaign. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you all very much.